All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course, we will unpause and repause as usual. Yes, indeed. This is a weird news day. We've got like all sorts of sporadic shit actually to talk about. Some of it's politics, some of it's science, and there's all sorts of crazy stuff. I'm not going to get to it all. I've docketed most of it the best that I could, but I think that there's too many news topics to actually cover them all. We've got to talk about Tyler Robinson, actually, and his court attire. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that. Major New York paper endorses Andrew Cuomo over callow and mealy-mouthed Mamdani. This is from the New York Daily News, of course. The left is now attacking Barack Obama. We talked about this briefly this morning, but I figured it mentioned special second mention, actually, because it's so insane. I don't know what they're doing at this point. I really don't understand their strategy. This sort of falls in line with not understanding the strategy of the Democratic Party over the last few months. So, yeah. Australia's tropical forests now emit CO2, clouding the COP30 talks. This is another piece of fiction that's being spawned by the climate change alarmists, by the way. Napoleon's retreating army may have been plagued by microbes. Yeah, no shit, they got sick because, when you're only getting one meal a day, and that one's a sparse meal, and, there's snow everywhere, and you're cold, and not dressed properly, you may have a few problems. Just saying, it could be a thing. We will talk about other news as well if we get to the chance to do so. We've got DNA revealing Neanderthals traveled thousands of kilometers into Asia. This proves, by the way, genetically at least, a theory that has been around for a very long time, which is, yeah, the Neanderthals did actually make it further into Eurasia, interbred with various populations, and formed the modern human race. Oh, yeah, and then I had a recipe for herbal dumplings. I was going to make them tonight. My dad's making beef stew. My mom insists on making biscuits. Biscuits are great with beef stew, don't get me wrong. I prefer drop dumplings, though. So I'm thinking of making my own little slurry and, making some of those or something along that line. Being Latino in the United States should not be a crime. Yeah, because apparently, having slightly, darker colored skin, that'll get you profiled at this point. It's a bunch of bullshit. The Trump administration does not care if you are a Latino or a Latina. It cares if you are legally in the country. If you are legally in the country, well, no problem. Nobody gives a shit. Pre-59 Cuban. They got the clap, fucking French whores. Yeah, the founders were really, they were fond of that, especially Ben Franklin. He was a member of the Hellfire Club, actually. Well, one of them. Tsar Nicholas was a member of a different one. Yeah, Benjamin Franklin loved to fuck French hookers. He was obsessed with the topic, actually. And this is fairly renowned. It's very funny. Keep in mind that our country was founded by people who whored around, shot people, and drank constantly. Yeah. Yeah, that should be the framework, by the way, for our modern law and order. Sigil, you mean they were fondle of that? Yeah, Franklin, I don't know what shit he was into. Maybe he was into finger banging, who knows? We have no clue. We do know that he loved his drink, and he liked lighthouses better than churches, and that he really loved French prostitutes. He spent a couple of years over there attempting to conduct diplomacy, and spent most of the time fucking. Yeah. That's how our country was founded, by a bunch of pirates and brigands and rebels. That's basically where the United States comes from. Personally, I think it would be much funnier and much better in general if we went back to that original founding ethos of the United States. Ben Franklin would have loved a goddamn machine gun. He would have been like, oh, this shit's great. Go out in the woods and cut down trees with the fucking machine gun or something. You know that he would have done this. So would George Washington. So would have all of the other founders, actually. They would have found it to be very, very funny. Brian H., 1988. Well-read pirates. Yeah, most of them were literate. Actually, John Lafitte and his partner, I believe his brother actually, they were actually literate in multiple languages. That's how they got a bunch of pirates together and actually saved the United States in its burgeoning period by allying with Andrew Jackson. They were only able to assemble the pirates because they spoke multiple languages, because pirates, of course, were very cosmopolitan. And so sometimes on ship, nobody could really understand one another. Some of them spoke English, some of them spoke French, some spoke Spanish, some spoke, Dutch, some spoke other languages. And so it was really, really difficult to organize them. By being able to organize them, they managed to succeed in creating an army of pirates, actually, winning the War of 1812 posthumously, because technically speaking, if I remember correctly, peace had already been declared when that final battle actually happened. It's a very, very interesting story. You should go and take the pirate tour, by the way. I've got one of their stickers on my laptop for a reason, down in New Orleans. It's absolutely hysterical. Sigil Stone. George Washington would have cut down the cherry tree with C4. Yeah, he would have found that hilarious. He would have thought, oh, man, everyone should have a couple of bricks of this shit. This is really funny. Jordan Coates. Should I be a hobo? Well, I mean, you can do worse. Darren, in Verity, President Van Buren's wife was female. Yes, but I believe that she died young, and the technical acting first lady was, if I remember correctly, his niece, actually. Because, I mean, his wife had died, so, obviously she's not capable of handling the interior decor, so to speak. I believe that he put his niece in charge, actually, as acting first lady. Very, very interesting story, by the way. I mean, this is all sorts of crazy shit happens in the White House. Be more metal, save America, deport Democrats. At this point, looking at the Democratic Party, we will be talking about that. They've gone so far beyond, so far over the edge, I'm no longer unamenable to such a claim. I like to believe, hey, you're American, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican or whatever you happen to be, but by God, the party has fallen off the edge so far. It's like watching someone who's death spiraling on heroin or something like that. Spike. Tim Pool mentioned Trump could use the food riots to invoke the Insurrection Act and place monitors at the polling stations for 2026, as well as ramp up deportations. Thoughts? Bad idea, because it would be conceived of as tyrannical by the average independent voter. What's better is to continue the food stamp program. I believe that Trump should do this. I realize that some people misuse it, but there are people out there that are genuinely hurting because of Bidenomics mainly. And this is, I don't understand why the GOP is not making this point. Biden fucked the economy, therefore food prices higher. We're going to continue the aid to you because we realize that you're hurting. This is a slam dunk. It's an absolute slam dunk. I don't understand why the GOP is so retarded that they're not doing it. We'll see what they do. Alamandorius, hey Sticks, did you have a chance to watch that thing I sent you? I grabbed the first one I saw, so I got a really biased interpretation video, lol. Yeah, the Australian video there, where they had, what's it called, not wampus, wonk thing there that they have on their Australian TV. Not exactly sure. But yeah, I did get a chance to watch that in full. I thought it was really, really funny. Yeah, Anne Frank re-envisioned as a lesbian Latina, actually, with neuroplasticity involved with regards to the parents. I didn't get to see a clip of the actual theater performance, but yes, I saw the coverage of it and thought it was very, very funny. What I really want to is see the entire theater performance, though. Let's get to our first news video of the day. Charlie Kirk's suspected assassin does not show face in court. Key hearing postponed. That, by the way, the latter is fairly normal. Tyler Robinson faces aggravated murder charge with potential death penalty and assassinated of Charlie Kirk. I think personally he should face life imprisonment because it's much more draconian than actually being able to die. Dying is easy. I mean, the death part sucks, but, you know, once you're dead, everything's over. Having life in prison without the possibility of parole is far worse and, oddly enough, cheaper. His assassin, or alleged assassin, we know who it was, so, you know, fuck it, is now allowed to appear in plain clothes in court. This is something on which, and I don't want to offend anyone by saying this, well, I don't care if you're offended, but, you know, just pointing that out. I actually agree with people on the left on, which is that I believe that when a person faces a court, when they're going to have a jury trial, they should be able to dress normally. Because when you put them in a jumpsuit, you automatically assume guilt. Now, in this case, do we know that there's guilt? Of course we do. We're fully aware of it. Jury is going to convict him anyway. He will be convicted. He will end up with life imprisonment, possibly death row or something like that. We're already aware of this fact. But to defend yourself properly, a person should be at least allowed to have some degree of dignity. It makes the process a little bit more fair. I have seen the legal process. Trust me, it is not fair. Oh, you have a private lawyer and got bailed out? You can show up in you know, civilian clothing. If you don't, you show up in a jumpsuit in shackles and things like that. This disproportionately is going to predispose the jury to find guilt. It does not matter if you have a case like this where guilt is assumed because guilt is obvious. In any other case, though, it could predispose a jury. It could also lead to mistrial. Hey, you know, they put me in a jumpsuit and shackles and stuff like that, and I couldn't afford a private lawyer. I couldn't get any reprieve whatsoever, and so, you know, this case is bullshit, basically. This, I believe, has happened on a number of occasions. Let him wear the civilian clothes. Don't put him in shackles. The dude is not going to attack the judge. I mean, if he does, he's going to get gunned down anyway, so it doesn't really make a fucking difference. I would say, ultimately, the left is fundamentally correct on this issue, actually. Spike. I agree with funding the SNAP for now and really ram it in the Democrats' face. Exactly. Use Bidenomics like you said. State it as, the Democrats broke you, now they want to starve you. You are fundamentally correct, my friend. Yeah, I mean, the Republicans are really, really great at getting a really big gift, because this is what this could be. And then just sort of tossing it off to the side and saying, yeah, well, we'll do it later or something. You have the ability to you have the ability to suffocate the Democrats with this particular political issue. Hey guys, we continued your SNAP benefits. The Democrats want to take them away. Tell them to stop the fucking shutdown because we can't do this forever. That's literally all you have to say. It's like fucking 2 sentences and you've completely demolished them. But the Republicans are, as usual, too retarded to do so. Alamandorius, it's not what I sent you. It was about the Canadian tariff ad. Oh, yes, I saw that too. I also saw that weird ad from Denmark where they're encouraging people to, fuck people that are not of Danish race because, inbreeding or something. Yeah, we'll be talking about that too. It's a very, very strange video. I believe I have it pulled it up on Twitter. Let me see. Yes, I do have the link. Okay, good. Yeah, this is from Ian Miles Shong. This ad in Denmark shows two Danes making out before an expert shows up and tells them they shouldn't date each other because that is inbreeding and that they need to have kids with non-whites. Now, when I first saw this, I figured that this was hyperbole. It's not hyperbole, actually. Denmark appears to be the seat of this sort of crazed infidelity. Yeah, arc inbreeding. Yeah, apparently if two people from Danish origin fuck each other, it's inbreeding now. Even if they're not related to each other. Yep, bland up, guys. Oh, we'll be talking about this. Let's get to our sponsors first, though, before we get to any other news. We have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills, my man. I take them every single day. In fact, I'll probably take another one in a minute. And you can also get doggy dose. That's some good stuff. Doggos love it, so again, I still need to do the test where I go up to random dogs. I'm like, hey, you want a treat? I have a feeling that all of them will eat the treat, by the way. It works for humans too, though. There's a reason why I'm so energetic. Then we have BiltongUSA.com. Anytime we mention Anton and his site, we must eat Bovrite, Vegemite. Damn it, I forgot to bring the Bovrite in the room. Well, I'm an idiot. Where's my... Fine, though. Still tastes really good. You put this on some toast. You only need a very, very small amount of it because it's so salty. Or it tastes salty. Funny part is, none of these really have much salt in them. You can also get Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts, and a various variety of meat. Yeah, you can get some Angus, some Wagyu, slice it up in your soup. You can carry it out when you go hiking. Get some Cabanassi. Just trust me on that one. Also bison, which is still, I believe, my favorite. Although the Droiwurst is very good as well. So basically, just buy any meat you want. Doesn't really matter, because it's all technically delicious. And then finally, jamandbean.com. JAMNbean.com. Hail to Jam and Bean. Get a little bit of tea. Get a little bit of coffee, of course. God, it smells fucking good. You have no idea. I mean, I'm a coffee and tea aficionado, so yeah, I've got quite a collection. Just saying. Jam and Bean does it best. Mexican Trumper. Third and fourth cousin marriages are historically the best. Well, I mean, it's not a problem if a person fucks their cousin. Even if it's, first cousin or something. Unless it happens generation after generation, then it becomes genetically untenable. If it happens, therefore, habitually, the family tree becomes a bamboo stalk and people start getting fucking deformed and stuff like that. So if it's a one-off, yeah, okay. Do I believe it should be illegal? I would say for first cousin marriages, yes. For second cousin or beyond, no. I do not believe it should be illegal. But I also don't believe it should be celebrated. And that's just the pragmatic opinion that I happen to have. But, yeah, I mean, when you're encouraging people to, fuck people based on their race, isn't that racist? I would think so. What if I were to make an ad saying, hey, in some African country, hey, you shouldn't be dating one another. You should be dating this white dude or something like that. Do you think that that would fly? Do you think that that would be conceived of as acceptable? I have a feeling that the answer is probably no. Opinionated junkie. Government shutdown will hurt Trump, like it or not. Yes. But it'll also hurt the Democrats. I mean, people at this point, they're just like, fuck the government. Which is what we want, by the way. The dashing rogue. Bird. It's not the pigeons losing bird feed or snap. It's the hawks in the armed forces who aren't getting their share of the pie due to the shutdown. Huh. Darren in Virality. Lantern Jaw. I've heard of that before, actually. Isn't that the result of the degradation of the jawbone based on, if I remember, phosphate, if I remember correctly? I could be wrong. Yeah, so apparently it's a good idea to encourage a white couple to separate in order for at least one of them to fuck a black dude or a black woman. If you were to invert this in Denmark or elsewhere, I think you'd probably be called a Nazi. Hey, guys, we need to whiten up a little bit down here. Yeah, Rwanda needs more white dudes to impregnate women. You know, after all, it's all pink inside, so, you know, no big problem. Yeah, it's all pink in there. Basically, and it might taste like salmon, too. Spike, if it's diseased. Easiest place to get laid is Iceland. Just walk in somewhere and yell, "I'm not from here." You'll be jiggling pussy for days. That would be absolutely hilarious, actually. Yeah, there are nations that are very underpopulated and quite remote that don't really have a lot of influx of genetics. And so in some cases it can become a problem. You know, look at the proud British teeth sort of thing. Yeah. But, yeah, it also happens in other parts of the world that are not white. But it's never addressed similarly. It's very, very interesting. Polish people have to, you know, they have to fuck people from outside of the country. British people, the same thing. And Denmark and so forth. But if you are in Uganda, there's no impetus to do so. No, dude, you just keep within your tribe. It's a very, very strange system. Forest Hill, if you want the 2-in-1 special, go to Thailand. Yeah, you can get a dick and a vagina at the same time. Sometimes from the same person, I believe. So yeah. With Tyler Robinson, I actually have to agree with the left with regards to that. People should be able to wear plain clothes when they're in prison because they're assumed innocent until proven guilty. Until the verdict is actually reached and the sentencing is done, they should be able to wear plain clothes. Regardless, as long as it's not something obscene or something like that, they should be able to wear fundamentally what they want. Because they're not guilty yet. They haven't been proven guilty before a jury of their peers. I know that some people will say, well, he quite clearly killed Charlie Kirk. I agree with you. Of course he blew his fucking head off. He killed Charlie Kirk. We know that he's guilty. And he's gonna get his comeuppance. Until then, though, you have to at least present the concept of legality. Major New York paper endorses Andrew Cuomo over callow and mealy-mouthed Mamdani. The New York Daily News backed former Governor Cuomo despite his well-documented flaws. I have seen this a number of times, my friend. A lot of these left-leaning papers are endorsing Cuomo. And they'll say, well, you know, he's got flaws, but they're perfectly fine, you know, compared to Mamdani, the commie. He's fucking crazy. Cuomo has flaws. Yeah, he's got a bunch of scandals and legal issues and stuff like that, but we're endorsing him anyway. It's always with the qualifier. They really want Mamdani to win, but they realize that it's not necessarily appropriate to endorse Mamdani because Mamdani is a fucking communist. So what do? I'll endorse Cuomo, but here are all of the problems that are attendant with endorsing Cuomo. Here's 5 paragraphs about how I don't even like Cuomo, but I'm endorsing him anyway. I have seen this several times. It's happened over and over. It's over and over. Basically, it's Cuomo's bad, but he's less bad. That's basically what they're going with, which shows you how bad Mamdani is, by the way. Mamdani is a fuckwad. He has no idea what he's doing. He's simply younger than Cuomo. He's more charismatic than Cuomo. That's the reason the Dems are going with him. And he's being backed by his fellow communists. Bernie Sanders, AOC, and so forth. They're all banding together to form some sort of a deleterious communist movement in the United States. And the legacy media knows that he's going to win. So they're going to endorse Mamdani or they're going to endorse Cuomo, but they'll qualify it. That's basically what we're seeing here. Bunch of deviated preverts if I ever saw them myself. Fucking commie. By the way, make calling commies great again. Because some of these people are quite literally telling you that they're socialists and stuff like that. But the legacy media will say, well, I'm not really a socialist. You're not really a commie or something like that. No, you're a fucking commie. Kill yourself. Skippy, thanks for keeping the spirit of early internet alive. I may be insufferable, but you never ban. No, I'm never going to ban you, dude. You have to go way out of your way to get banned on this channel. So yeah, I'm hoping that Mamdani, I'm hoping that he overdoses tomorrow, actually. Honestly. I really am. I wish nothing but the worst for communists. When we talk about communism, we've got to talk about failure, because they are the same thing. Not interested, dude. Take your communism and shove it up your asshole or something like that. Go somewhere else and, peddle your bullshit there. I wish that Bernie Sanders would self-deport, honestly. Now people are fighting in the comments. Heavy gun, but real communism has never been tried. Yeah, I love that argument. It's hilarious. So yeah, you've got the Cuomo endorsement. Here's the thing, though. It's too little too late. Cuomo being endorsed by people who are simply desperate to stop Mamdani, that ain't gonna work. Mamdani will be elected. He will be the next mayor of New York. It is inevitable at this point. He's got too much of a lead. It's quite clear that the people of New York City, by and large, especially foreign voters, which is hilarious, have chosen Mamdani. I look at this as a good thing, actually. Cuomo would be sane but boring, effectively. Sliwa would be more effective, but probably not have a mandate. So then you get Mamdani. Well, he's a fucking communist. He either follows through with his bullshit and collapses the city, and then we can use him as an example of why we shouldn't be doing that sort of thing, or he doesn't follow through, and then the left gets disenfranchised, and they don't want to follow through with the thing. Well, either way, you win. In the end. I wanted to talk about this article. I did cover it this morning, but it warrants a little bit of extra mention. Obama overestimates his political sway. He is still active on the campaign trail, lecturing American voters. Now, this comes from the left. This is not a right-wing article. This is from the left wing. The left wing is very quickly souring on Barack Obama, much to their detriment, by the way, I would say. They believe that Barack Obama is wrong when he comes out and, publishes a book saying, hey, Kamala shouldn't have just been minted. There should have been some sort of primary process here. That's normally how you get a presidential candidate. You have a primary, right? Now, granted, it was definitely late in the game, but Obama is fundamentally correct. Democratic voters weren't particularly pleased about the fact that Kamala was effectively minted instead of having to go through a competitive process as well. She was not the incumbent. Technical incumbent? Yes. Vice president? All right, well, that's wonderful. But you weren't the president of the United States. Biden stood down, you decided to run. Technically, there should have been some sort of process that you could have implemented in that time frame. And Obama is fundamentally right. I do not like to give Obama credit. I have only ever given him credit for backing off on regulating the energy industry, which was a big win for him, and for recognizing Cuba and discontinuing the embargo there. I believe that those are his two, those are the two things he succeeded in. I don't give Obama a lot of credit. His tax plans were crummy. His response to the Great Recession was bullshit. And so on and so on. But certainly within foreign policy, with regards to military endeavors and things like that, Obama was one of the worst presidents we've had. But I will give credit where credit is due. Not just on Cuba, and not just on, energy, which the latter especially is a very major thing. On this, though, he's trying to correct the Democratic Party. It's just they won't listen to him. He's trying to warn you, you will not listen. It is much to your detriment. Dan Steely, cry about New York, retards. It's going to be New York that is doing the crying fairly soon. They will elect Mamdani, and he will either collapse their economy and society completely, crushing the dreams of 15 plus million people, or he will not follow through, crushing the dreams of the far left. It is inevitable. C3, Jamaica. Yeah, they're getting pounded by Hurricane Melissa at the moment. That's something I will be looking into. I believe probably in the next few hours, actually. Yeah, the thing is, I liked New York City when I was there. I really had a lot of fun. Love to go back. But yeah, and despite the fact that there are conservative blocs there, though, it is overwhelmingly left-leaning. Especially if you go to Manhattan. If you go to the Bronx, to Brooklyn, a little bit less. There are 5 boroughs. Technically, there are more than that because they're so large that they're broken up into sub-boroughs more than anything else. No, Jordan Coat, not Jamaica, New York, Jamaica, the island down in the Caribbean. They're about to get, I think that they're actually already getting slammed by Hurricane Melissa, actually. So, as far as Obama goes, can I make a suggestion to the liberals? Trying to go up against Obama is probably a bad idea. Of all the living liberal presidents, he is easily the most popular. You're not going to get it with Clinton. FDR is dead. You lionized him even though he was a virulent racist and completely insane. So of all of the Democratic presidents, Obama's easily the most popular. Now that Jimmy Carter is dead, there's no comparison. You've actually got someone who could theoretically be a sort of standard bearer, even though he can't run for office again or anything like that. But he's trying to give you advice, and you're shitting on him. What the fuck are you doing, dude? This points to the Democratic dysfunction. You're acting like Republicans more than anything else. I can't even believe what I'm goddamn reading half the time these days. Sometimes I think that I'm having a stroke or something like that. Copium poppies. We, as in the entire U.S., should all send our homeless to New York when Mamdani, or whoever the fuck you spell his name, is elected. It's with an M, not an N. It's Mamdani. Mom Donnie the commie. Yeah. I mean, the dude is completely messed up. Arr, matey, from stem to stern. Dan Steely, you poor dopes. We'll see who's the dope in the near future. My man, our side has pirates and stuff like that. And doubloons. Apocalypse, wow. Obama was treated with kid gloves. Everyone forgets he doubled down on Bush's foreign policy and was instrumental in expanding warrantless spying. Yeah, and much, much more than that, too. He continued the policy of trying to spy on people's internet records, among other things. Then there was, of course, I found it funny. Supposedly Donald Trump is an evildoer because he's attacking narco ships, right? With F-35s more than anything else. So you bomb the narco ship that is quite clearly carrying 1,000 pounds of cocaine. You're a bad person. But when Barack Obama decides that somebody who has pledged loyalty to a foreign group despite any lack of evidence involved in them actually physically acting upon their loyalty, and they're a U.S. citizen, and you bomb them with a drone, that's perfectly okay. It's amazing, actually. You may remember that particular case. I think that was 2014, if I remember correctly. Copium poppies. I did type an M. No, dude, no, you said Mon Donnie, not Mom Donnie. I believe it's with an M. Snakes bleed red. Stick still writes people off if they're labeled racist. The brainwashing goes deep. No, I don't give a shit if somebody has racist tendencies. Everyone does. Anyone claiming otherwise is a goddamn moron. Either that or they're being disingenuous. That being said, though, when you have a political party that claims that it's anti-racist and progressive and stuff like that, but it's engaging in exactly the same behavior with totem comps and stuff like that, come on, dude. You gotta call them out for hypocrisy. I do not believe in censoring anyone for their political beliefs. I do not care if somebody labels them racist, because most often the label doesn't even apply. But if you are going to label other people that way, you'd best be, ready to get the same label when you inevitably do the same thing, because everyone engages in this behavior. It's funny. Like, I'll call myself a cracker or a honky or something like that. Who gives a shit? You expect me to get, hot under the collar about that? Apocalypse, wow. He was also responsible for the Democracy Project. Ah, yes, I've heard of that, yes. Also, Obama was responsible for upending 3 or 4 different countries. Tried with Syria, failed. Tried with Egypt and failed. Tried with Libya, unfortunately succeeded. Now, it's basically filled with slaves and stuff like that. And then there were a couple of others, actually, that were involved in that. With the Arab Spring and stuff like that. Vulcus. Whenever Styx is constipated, he always hits me up to come mash it with the old meat shovel. Yeah. Copium puppies. Oh, typo. Damn. Haha, I caught you out. I got you good that time. Spike. Obama's power is gone. If we can defeat the commies in 2026 through 2030, we can put them away for decades, since Gen Z and Alpha are very conservative. Half of the boomers will be gone after 2030. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's the thing that we have to look forward to. The younger generations are nowhere near as far left as millennials. When this generation begins to pass on, I know that I'm an outlier. Most millennials are on the left wing of politics. Well, when it starts to get old and fade away, When the youth inherits the world, I believe in a new golden age. I think that this will be the last blast of happiness in the United States. Lord help those that don't get to experience it. Harrison Bergeron. I'm culturalist. However, culture is generally tied to race. Yeah. Culture is, I would agree with you. Culture and race are sort of overlapped. They can, if you have a cosmopolitan sort of society, then race maybe means a little bit less. Mostly, though, people are tribalistic. I would agree with you generally. We've got all sorts of crazy shit in chat today. Australia's tropical forests now emit CO2, clouding the COP30 talks. Carbon emissions from this one region. This is a very important line that a lot of people missed. May foreshadow global forest trends. Yeah, apparently there's a region in Australia where the rainforest is mainly emitting rather than absorbing CO2. This is then, of course, extrapolated in a hyperbolic manner to the idea that, oh my god, forests are beginning to emit CO2, we're all gonna die. That's not actually happening, though. The fact that you have a heat wave and so you have more CO2 being emitted than being absorbed temporarily is not really the end of the world. This has been happening for a long time. The problem is that until fairly recently, humans did not have the capability of really monitoring these sorts of things. CO2 emissions, temperatures, rainfall, anything like that. You're looking at the mid 18th century at most, and that's for basic methodology. The mid 19th century for anything more advanced than that, and the early 20th century for most of the technology employed. When you're talking about fully modern technology in the sense that we use it now, you're talking about the last 20 years. So what happens is that you have a sampling problem. The sample is very, very small. It involves a handful of years, various methodologies, studied throughout the world. They're often localized. Like, for instance, there was one story, I don't know if this is true. There was one story about them using a CO2 collector to try to monitor atmospheric CO2. But they put it right next to a highway or a railroad or something like that. Necessarily, of course, the readings will be higher because there's going to be more emissions. It's obvious. Tea good. It's obvious that that's going to happen. But they never fix for that. It's sort of like the studies that they did about heart attacks and strokes back in the day with regards to caffeine usage. Of course, we've got our own favorite caffeine here. You are actually vasoprotective. But originally, they thought it caused heart attacks and stuff like that. Turns out, that was because they never fixed the study for smoking. So people would smoke and drink coffee, and those two things overlapped fairly heavily, and it was really the smoking that was causing the heart attacks and strokes and stuff like that. Which is hysterical. They never thought to fix for that, because they thought it was healthy and shit back then. Oh yeah, this cigarette, it has like fucking vitamins in it or something. I got my minerals today. I smoked my pack of Marlboros, you know. Untold misery. Sticks. You don't get it, Sticks. Citizens are a slave class. We are only meant as a tax base, my dude. So voting is only to perpetuate your oppression. Well, I can do whatever the fuck I want, anytime that I want to do it. I do not require rules, regulations, laws, or anything like that. So yeah, you can do the same thing, should you want to. Yeah. Let them try to suppress everyone at once, see what happens. I'm not particularly interested in laws. I ignore them generally. Yosatuku, hey Sticks, everyone I know are on edge lately and it's hard to find work that pays livable wages. Lots of talk of race war from normies. Are we fucked? Only if you allow yourself to be fucked. That's the whole point. You can fight back. I don't think that any random black person is going to randomly assault you, though. I wouldn't worry about that. You're being assaulted by your own government. That's the whole problem. People always misconstrue the enemy. Your enemy is the government itself. The fact that it has the power to oppress you and legalize the oppression is the problem. That is the fundamental issue of politics. Other groups of people, they look different than you. They have different genitals or something like that. That doesn't make them your oppressor. It doesn't legalize their capability to abuse you. The government does. The government allows women, for example, when we talk about the gender debate, women are allowed to oppress men because of what? The government. Who runs it? It's the government. Empowered people, rich people. If it allows one race to oppress another, who is legalizing this? Who is making it possible to happen? It's the government. Oftentimes, this government has nothing in common with the groups that they're empowering at all. Most of the government is white dudes, and sometimes of a certain religion. We won't talk about that on a YouTube live stream. They have the ability to legalize this oppression. Other people who are suffering are automatically concerned with the people that are oppressing them, but the ability to oppress has been caused by a third party. Just pointing it out. You're fiery but mostly peaceful weenie dog. You Sticks have some tacos on me. That's what I'm talking about. Greasy ass. No. If you're, let's say that you're like, white nationalist or something. You're worried about some black dude randomly coming up with a baseball bat. Who allowed that to happen? Was it A, the black dude with the baseball bat, or B, the prosecutorial system and the politicians that actually control it? I think the answer is B. It's called playing the long game. It's called being strategic. Let's say that white people are harassing you, and they're calling you the N-word or something like that. Who allowed this situation to happen where a bunch of robed Klansmen are beating you to the ground? Was it A, the Klansmen, or B, the politicians? The legal class, the prosecutors, the judges, the lawyers, all of these fuckers. No, it was the latter. The Klansmen can't legalize their own lynching of this black person, but it can be legalized by the legal system, because the legal system can do effectively whatever it fucking wants. Everyone is suffering. Male, female, white, black, Hispanic. It does not matter who you are. It's the legal system that is responsible for our problems. Hell, all the courts in the land should be, well, I can't say that on a YouTube video. You probably understand what I mean. Corrupt as fuck. Absolutely corrupt. Sigil. No, I am not advocating locking up all black people, actually. Many of them are pretty based, actually. What I'm advocating is locking up all the judges. I'm advocating locking up all the prosecutors. I'm advocating absolutely strangulating the goddamn legal system and demolishing the courts because they're completely useless. We need a new one. We should probably reform it. We should do to the legal system what Donald Trump is doing to the East Wing of the White House, actually. Sounds like a good idea to me. Napoleon's retreating army may have been plagued by these microbes. It turns out that rheumatic fever might have been plaguing them. When Napoleon advanced into Russia, which was not a great idea, he was forced to retreat because the Russians beat the shit out of him. And there were tales of, like, you know, the Russian cavalry would sort of ride in while they were attempting to leave and just cut them down and stuff like that. And there are pictures of people frozen into the permafrost, literally upside down and stuff like that. You've got similar pictures from World War I and World War II as well. And so they got screwed, basically, and Napoleon lost. He probably should not have engaged in this particular campaign. But it turns out that actually disease was one of the primary factors in why his troops could not fight back. They had remittent fever. That is, that they would get rheumatic fever and it would relapse over and over again. And some of them also had salmonella and a few other diseases. This is fairly common. It's a fascinating scientific study, though, because they looked at their teeth, actually, if I remember correctly. And, you know, they can sort of figure, what were you infected with? They've done this with plague victims before. And they found out that actually recursive rheumatic fever actually was one of the main ones that they had. So they would have had respiratory issues. They would have been in pain, generally speaking, among other things. They would have been fucking sick. They would have been all sorts of messed up. And so while they were retreating, they were not in particularly good shape, actually. This is not a surprise, by the way. This is not exactly surprising news. It's just fascinating news. I like science. What can I say? Just like with those mosquitoes that they thought that were from the London Underground, and it turns out they were actually from ancient Rome. I love articles like that. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see. Fiery but mostly peaceful weenie dog. Why the left is prone to being mentally challenged. Because you have to be mentally challenged in order to endorse leftism, actually. It's really a simple concept. In order to believe that hierarchical structures are capable of functioning without corruption, you have to be a little bit mentally slow. The problem is everyone wants such a structure just to enforce what they want. They never wanted to enforce anything else, but they always change. So, for example, if I were to create a centralized structure, let's say I were to create an authoritarian, arguably tyrannical structure, I would try to incept it to create a libertarian society. Yeah, vaguely libertarian. I mean, there would still be law and order, but there'd be a lot less taxation, regulation. You'd be able to own a machine gun and shit like that. I would create a structure like that. But in a representative society, that same structure that you've created, centralized as it is, can be taken over by anyone else. It can be taken over by communists. Subversive agents can undermine your country in order to make it seem like your system is failing. And then they can just institute their own. Socialists love to do this. They've done this a number of times over the years. Capitalists have too. Ram Bam, Styx wants to be king. Based. Yes, I would accept the kinghood over the United States. Yes, I would. If only for the benefit of other people, after which I would off myself in order to prevent myself from being corrupted. But that would not be a good idea. Crystal McVeigh. Lol, winner, winner. Yeah, the problem with power structures is that they can be corrupted. So you create one, and it's working fine, everything's hunky-dory. But if you want to have a representative structure, then it gets corrupted. Or, conversely, you could say, fuck the representative structure. Yeah, fuck representative democracy and stuff like that. We're just going to have a monarchy. That's great. Your king is such a wonderful person. Until he dies. And then a son or daughter takes over, or something like that. Some, other individual inherits the monarchy. And then they start fucking up. Well, that's a little bit of a problem. Because they've got the same dictatorial power as the first leader. The first leader was fine. This one, not so much. But they've got the same power. That's why we have to have a representative system. Preferably as nullified as possible under a constitutional system. I do not believe in monarchy. Snakes bleed red. King Styx decrees that only Christian white men can own land and hold positions of power. Now you're talking. They don't have to be Christian. They also don't have to be white. They also don't have to be male. I don't give a fuck. I would be perfectly fine with being a monarch, except that, when you die, you're like on your deathbed, and you say, oh shit, well now things are gonna go to hell. This is why monarchy does not work. It's perfectly fine to have a dictatorship if it's a benevolent one, but they tend not to be, because most dictators are obsessed with power. There is no perfect form of government. That's what I would like to impart to people. It doesn't exist. Dictatorship, monarchy, religious rule, democracy, republic, none of them fully work. That's the whole point. Excuse me. Ty8705, do you think Trump will fire Bondi? I hope so. If these lunatics are not indicted, if they actually did a crime, when regain power, they will come after all of us, which Hakeem has stated, and Pritzker. I don't give a shit what Pritzker says, but yeah, Bondi, I hope, is actually fired. I mean, God, you're gonna lead, these investigations, but you're not gonna do anything about them. Alright, well that makes a whole lot of sense. Wonderful. Wonderful job, Pam Bondi. Thing is, she's actually fairly attractive. Just saying. Oh, come on. Most of you would, too. Hee hee. Snakes bleed red. I would make it so if you throw a phone at the girl, a girl has to pay you. Hardy, hardy, har. Snakes bleed red. I fucking love you, dude, even though you're a shit poster. Just saying. By the way, I can be live for an extended period of time here today. I'm, basically just, slumming around. I do have a little bit of literary work to do, though. I was writing morbid stories, and I've gotten more than half of it done. In the new format, by the way, for full-length works, right? But I accidentally added far too much material in the final section. So I'm going to have to reformat the entire final section in order to make it fit, and I'm going to release that separately. That'll probably be done tonight, and then the original Morbid Stories, I'm thinking about cutting it off roughly at 6 more entries, or thereabouts. So I'll probably do them later. I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the rest. There's too many of them. I can't add too many, otherwise the page file is not going to work. And Amazon has made it fundamentally incapable of actually generating a new one. So I sort of have to use the templates that I've already downloaded over the years. Thankfully, I have a shit ton of them, Anything in 5 by 8, I've already got that. But with 6 by 9, I'm gonna have to fiddle with that a little bit. It shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I'll still be able to release it. It's just, it's not going to be in the same format I originally intended. Copium poppies. If I was king, I'd make sticks eat candy corn. Yeah, I know you would, because you believe in torture. Copium. Yeah, you wouldn't believe it, everyone. He fires off candy corn pictures like almost every day. I'm being tortured by copium poppies. Exactly, CP Semple. You have to have my side when we go into battle against the evil of candy corn. I'm drafting you. No, seriously, I get like candy corn pictures on a regular basis. Like, what the hell? Cooking Inferno. Sticks with Halloween coming up. What do you think of ceremonial vestments when you do ritual and spellwork? As a Freemason, you know my preference. Depends on the kind of ritual, I would say. I personally am already in my ceremonial uniform. I look cool, don't I? I'm a fucking pirate, dude. I'm already dressed for Halloween. Copium poppies. Every day? Seriously? I sent you like 2 recently. Yeah, but you send them regularly enough that it's memorable. Professor Enoch, what do you think about Trump's visit to Malaysia? It's cool to go to Malaysia. I wish I could go there. Yeah, Malaysia's, yeah, I thought he went to, he didn't, was it Malaysia? Oh yeah, dancing on the red carpet and stuff like that. Oh, it's funny. The liberals were talking about this, actually. Well, Donald Trump during a shutdown is dancing around with the Malaysians. Dude, if he had just walked down solemnly across the red carpet and he hadn't done the Trump dance and hadn't saluted anyone and hadn't done anything else, what would they have said? Donald Trump hates Asian people. Guaranteed. So, yeah, go ahead and dance with the Malaysians. I wish I could do that right now. Oh man, I wish I had Malaysian food right now. Now you've made me hungry. Don't turn this into another food stream, by the way. Ty, or is he slowing down and should be investigated for his mental health? Yeah, I saw the thing about the MRI that he had at Walter Reed. My thought is, presumptively, because he is nearly 80 years old, they probably did that preemptively. I do not believe that he has any health problems. I believe that they just did that just to make sure. It's like, hey, you're almost 80 years old. You might want an MRI, We'll do a brain scan. Like they're talking about, well, this is not normally done during a general investigation of your health. No shit, Sherlock. The average person is not nearly 80 years old. Bullshit. Yeah, fuck yourself. Queen of Biltong. Pass on the candy corn and just eat biltong. Girls will like you more. More meat and less candy. Use code STICKS for 10% off on BiltongUSA.com. That is true, by the way. Yeah, dudes out there, drop the sweets. Get rid of them all. Don't eat fucking any of them. Eat meat, dairy, green vegetables. If you want something sweet, eat some goddamn fruit. Trust me. I mean, look at me. I'm not exactly Adonis, but, people are still attracted, so it's pretty funny. It happens all the time. Actually, there was well, never mind. I shouldn't get into that. No, I had a recent event, actually, with regards to attractiveness. ending up in my favor. Snakes bleed red. You can drink Kool-Aid. That's perfectly fine. You just shouldn't. I'm having such a good time, I don't think any of you even understand it, actually. Alright. I'm probably going to go longer than normal today, so I'm going to take a quick break because I really need to use the bathroom. And then I will be back in a minute, if that's alright, everyone. Yeah, so don't worry, I'll be right back. So don't disconnect. Oh god, that'd be terrible. Oh, BRB. Oh yes, I need to get a spoon and a cup actually. I'm gonna mix the milk in. I'll be right back. All right, we should be back online. That's what I'm talking about. We've got more news to talk about. By the way, we're going to be going a little bit longer today, actually. We do need to talk about the Neanderthals as well. And possibly these herb dumplings. That's what I'm talking about. I love this one New York Times article. Being Latino in the United States should not be a crime. Of course, it is not actually a crime. This is about federal discrimination with regards to people who happen to be slightly more brown than you are. And it's a pile of bullshit because racial discrimination and things like that really are not a thing. If anything, with law enforcement, it's actually quite the opposite. At this point, people are so afraid to enforce the law. If they think that somebody is of ethnic origin, generally speaking, they fucking leave it alone. They don't want to get involved at all. I don't blame the cops for not wanting to get involved, by the way, because, hey, you might get sued to the tune of millions of dollars or something like that. This is a funny, by the way, this is so hyperbolic. The Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration has become a campaign of discrimination against Latinos. At least you didn't use Latinx, so we'll give you credit for that. Federal agents are rounding up people with brown skin, catching both U.S. citizens and legal immigrants in their dragnet. Some Latinos are now afraid to speak Spanish or listen to Spanish music in public. Can you please give me an example of this actually being a thing? I have a feeling that you'll fail to do so, by the way. Some are missing Mass and staying home on Sundays, so you're not allowed to go to church, and stuff like that. Or asking friends to pick up their children from school. American citizens are living in fear of a government that is sworn to protect their liberties and keep them safe. They have reason to fear. In President Trump's anti-immigration blitz, federal agents have repeatedly violated civil liberties and humiliated people. Masked officials have shattered car windows and pulled out drivers, leaving children sobbing in back seats. In the middle of the night in Chicago, yeah, here's a good one. Agents with rifles swarmed an apartment building, broke down doors, and dragged people from their homes in handcuffs. Dozens of those taken away were U.S. citizens. Nationwide, immigration officials have detained more than 170 American citizens, including 20 held for more than 24 hours without the ability to make a phone call, ProPublica reported. By the way, the latter is unconstitutional. You do have the right to seek legal counsel. What I would say is, quite plainly, if you are detained by law enforcement, you do have the right, actually, to consult a lawyer. You have the right to call your family. You have the right for people to know what the fuck is going on. In those cases, though, it's a little bit different. Here's the nuance. It is perfectly fine to dragnet people who are illegally in the country. They're already breaking the law just by being here. Now, I would, of course, prioritize just those who are selling drugs. Maybe there's trafficking going on, something like that. That should be where your priority is. But in the case that you are a U.S. citizen, or, you've been wrongfully detained, you've done nothing else particularly wrong, you're just illegally in the country, you do have the right, actually, to a lawyer. The problem is that there's no nuance given here, actually, which is that effectively everyone who's being potentially wrongfully detained is thrown in the same group. I find this objectionable, actually. It is completely wrong to take a U.S. citizen and detain them simply because of the color of their skin. But this is something that is uncommon. This is something that is happening in a handful of cases. This is nothing different than what's been happening with the police for a very, very long time. It's been happening for decades. The police have already been doing this. ICE doesn't need to be involved. Federal agents don't need to be involved. The left has been complaining, for example, for a very long time about planting crack in people's vehicles and stuff like that. Where's the difference? There is none. It is exactly the same. Yes, there are going to be examples of police overreach. There are going to be examples of federal overreach. The irony is that the left right now is arguing for more federal overreach. They are arguing for more federal power. Those bureaus are all weaponized at this point. So what are you arguing for? Do you want more people to suffer or less people to suffer? It's very, very difficult to actually figure it out at some points. CP simple. Nuance equals nuance. Whatever. I get spam messages on Twitter sometimes. Be more metal. Ice, ice, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Good song, actually. Snakes bleed red. Caleb Hammer had an alien couple that was given 400 plus grand in loans. Are you fucking kidding me? They won't even approve me using Afterpay on something that's $100. I don't know what that refers to, but it wouldn't surprise me. An alien couple. I think you mean illegal aliens as opposed to space aliens. Just saying. That was their head teacher. Yep. Oh, I get that reference too, by the way. I'm almost out of tea. How sad. Turtle's toy box. Neither have a place among us. Yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna fend for themselves at this point. It's very sad, too. If people just left each other alone, we could all live in peace. We've all got our own resources. We've all got our own land. It's not really necessary for us to bomb each other and stuff like that. But that's just naivete. Ultimately, people are violent. Give me a second. Alright, that was literally just nothing more than a misunderstanding. Something happened with tires on my uncle's car, and my mom was yelling for my dad, and made it sound like it was like some terrible thing, like, hey, I just spilled acid all over myself or something. It turns out, thankfully, not to be the case. Jordan they didn't go to hell, did they? Since their skins look burned. Yeah. Feral Carnivore, where'd you get the hat? Got it from a subscriber. It's really, really fun. I love tricorn hats. I'm going to be buried in this, actually. Bowser Head Teacher, Blood and Soil. Good work, by the way. I've got a copy of it. Yeah, Blood and Soil, and also there was one Norwegian Word Horde, if I remember correctly. And it was a compilation of different statements from, the original sort of paganistic Norwegian language, the Volkish language, so to speak, and their translations, their transliterations, generally speaking. Drift Speed, it's a good hat. I fucking agree. Yeah. Green Text Pro, we need more cool people on clankers.net. We have a site free of censorship and algorithmic demotion. I have a vision of people coming together to make a difference. I strongly support your work, by the way. Green Text Pro. Get on there and I'll start posting Andy 6. I mean, it might ruin the site, but, it'll still be funny. Skippy Sticks is a long-term subscriber. I request a spell to help me dispatch coyotes in my area. It's called a 22. Avenge the cats in my life. Yeah, just fucking blast them. Feed him explosives or something like that. That's what I'm talking about. Chuck Morris, no, if I wanted to cuss in Dutch, I would call you a kankerher. We're talking about Neanderthals, not Nederlanders. As far as the Neanderthals go, it turns out they did DNA analysis, by the way, on multiple remains. The Neanderthals did actually make it into Eurasia. That means that the modern human race really is not Homo sapiens at all. It's Homo neanderthalensis, and Homo sapiens happen to interbreed with them. This upends hundreds of years of canonical knowledge with regards to the actual lineage behind what became mankind. It's a synthesis. It's partially Neanderthal, it's partially Homo sapiens. But they were wondering, how far did actual Neanderthalensis actually get? Because the out of Africa theory posits that predominantly it's all from Africa, it's Homo sapiens, the, species that came from out of North Africa. It turns out that actually is not the case. The groups that did the best were actually driven south by glacial movement and were Homo neanderthalensis. This is something that is monument to the human species. It can't be underestimated, actually. They're not going to give it much importance because it's not politically correct. But in the end, it turns out that the European diaspora from before the Ice Age and during the Ice Age actually formed the backbone of the human race. That is, that the Eurasian people, they all share that common lineage. And it's from mitochondrial DNA, so there's nothing that they can do to actually say that it's not true. Very, very funny when you actually think about it. Because they've been disclaiming this. It's just like up until the 1970s, it wasn't considered possible that the Vikings actually made it to North America. People thought that was just legend. They thought it was bullshit. Like, yeah, Leif Erikson didn't get there, these other Vikings didn't get there, the Icelandic remnant didn't manage to make it, then they found Lanzau's Meadows and other sites, and they realized, oh shit, they actually did make it. The people that posited at the time were considered to be insane. They considered their claims to be nuts. because they couldn't conceive of the fact that it was possible for people to go that far with relatively small ships and stuff like that, that they couldn't possibly fucking get there. It turns out in the end, they actually did. There were longhouses that were built. There were entire settlements that were built. They didn't last very long, but they were technically permanent settlements. The same is potentially true, in my opinion, of the Irish, actually. I believe that the tales of the Irish explorers are fundamentally true. Looking at the remains that I saw physically in person, because you're not allowed to fully investigate them because they're claimed as being, Aboriginal, so to speak, which is bullshit as well. They were clearly not made by Native Americans. People don't want to talk about it because they don't want to be labeled politically incorrect. In my case, I don't give a fucking shit. I don't want to be politically correct. These remains are made by Europeans. I believe that they were made by the Irish, specifically. Their Irish exploration stories sync up perfectly with the timeline in which these things would have been made. So you have the cairns, you have various other stone remains, we know this, you have Viking remains. Europeans were contacting the New World hundreds and hundreds of years before Columbus ever did jack shit. But they don't want to recognize this for politically correct purposes. They don't want to acknowledge that some of the megalithic structures that were made in the New World were made by a bunch of Irishmen and Norsemen. They don't want to recognize that. And that is the truth. That is what happened. They were not made by Native Americans. Any retard who has a basic understanding of archaeology would understand why. Lintel structure, astrological alignment, paved ground. Yeah, none of these things have anything to do with anything that the Native Americans were doing at the time. Nothing actually there reminded me of a Native American regime. If anything, you could ascribe it as Victorian, I suppose, but it obviously predates the Victorian era because of weathering and because of the astrological construct. Therefore, it can only be from a European group that came many, many hundreds of years ago. Had to have been far before Columbus. And it's pretty fun, too. I love archaeology. Celestial, does your tricorn pinch your head? Mine pinches it front and back. It's too round for my oval-shaped head. No, I don't have that problem, actually. Taco Woman, Sandy Ravage. Is the Viking runestone in Minnesota authentic? The Kensington stone. I believe that it is. Geological analysis has shown that the weathering of the stone is not the same in the engravings as in the stone itself. This is probably not something that you could fake with the technology that was available in the 1800s when it was found. I believe it's real. I do believe that the Kensington stone is a genuine remnant that was left behind. Also, when you look at the stones that were left around the Virginia-Maryland area, when you look at the Virginia Dare stone, that one I believe is also real. The others are obviously, they're fake. That was from people who, looked at the ad in the paper and said, wow, let me carve something. It looks quite similar, right? And so we'll simply submit it to the Institute. I believe that the Dare stone as well needs to be looked into. This is regarding the Roanoke colony. I believe that it's real. I think that it's quite clear now that most of the Roanoke survivors, they made it to Roanoke Island. I mean, they left, and they managed to get to Croatoan, rather. A few of them, I believe, fled, and they may have been under duress. It's not entirely clear, but they went north, and Virginia Dare, I believe, was among them, carved the stone, the Virginia Dare stone. It is real. And they may have been trying to make their way. This is an interesting theory. Think of this. There was a map that was released actually around that time. And there's a patch actually on the map that covers up what would have been a fort. Clearly a four-sided star-shaped fort. And this was hidden with a patch, actually, around that time. Probably to prevent the Spanish from seeing it in case they ever captured the ship. It's entirely possible that Virginia Dare and a handful of others decided to flee north to what would have been a fort. They thought it was there. They thought it had already been built or something like that because they had seen the map. And so my theory is that Virginia Dare and roughly 6 or 7 others, mostly children, but there were a couple of adults with them, they went north, they thought the fort was there. They found, of course, the fort never was built in the first place, that's why the patch was made, and then they got killed. Or they got absorbed into some local native tribe. Fascinating. Yeah. I don't believe that any of them survived. As far as the Croatoan survivors, they interbred. So they just, interbred with the local natives. Most of them got wiped out later into intertribal warfare, which is funny because this completely discredits the theory that all of the Injuns over in the New World were so peaceful and they lived in harmony with Mother Earth and, Father Sky and one another, and they smoked the peace pipe all the time. No, they killed each other all the time. They fucking wiped each other out on a regular basis. People from the West don't want to acknowledge this because it is unfortunate for them. Yeah, Skippy, don't be a bigot, Sticks. Remember, the Vikings were Muslim. I saw that story. Yeah, there was a ring from North Africa, actually, that was found in a burial cairn in Scandinavia. I believe in Sweden, if I remember correctly. It might have been Norway. I'm not 100% sure. And it was an Islamic ring. And people are saying, well, this proves that the Vikings were Muslims. No, it proves that they killed a bunch of fucking Muslims and took their fucking jewelry. But these people are too retarded to admit it. So, yeah. Yeah, that was pretty funny. When I saw that news story, oh my god. I had such a great time that day. Yeah, exactly. Harrison Bergeron, Viking probably took it off a dead Muslim. Yeah, they penetrated down into North Africa. They were raiding everything in their path. They went up the Seine. They went into Rome. They killed everything in their path. Yeah, no shit. They probably got some jewelry from some of the people that they killed. Patch Christ. Nope. The Vikings were never fucking Muslims. Exactly. But that's what they were trying to claim. And it's like, yeah, okay. That's like saying that if I kill a priest and take his cross, and then I die in battle or something like that, automatically I become a Christian. No, it means that I stole his fucking cross after I slit his fucking throat. That's what I'm talking about. Ronald Sims, because their EBT got cut off. Harrison Bergeron, guess all the Norse gods don't exist. Yeah, exactly. They didn't have a religion or anything like that. No, they just became a bunch of Muslims. Of course they did. And then stole all of their rings. I guarantee if you were to check the body, by the way, you would find that the ring does not find the hand, does not fit the hand. It was a cool ring. It was a cabochon. Back in the day, before gem cutting was common, they didn't have the modern conception of gem cutting, like making facets and stuff like that. They had what's called a cabochon. And so some of the gems and minerals that are actually quite valuable now were not particularly valued back then. Like diamonds, for example. If you make a diamond in cabochon, it's not particularly impressive. Now, if you give it facets and everything like that, depending on the quality, it can be very, very brilliant. But they didn't really have that back then. That, I believe, dates to the 1300s. If I remember correctly, somebody may correct me out there. Originally, though, gems were all cabochon cut, which means that they were smoothed out, they were rounded, and then they were emplaced. It isn't until later that you get what you would conceive of as modern gem cutting. I believe that was the 1300s. I may be wrong. Somebody can tell me. I mean, any time now. But yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Oh man, I had a cabochon cut of a garnet once. I can't remember exactly where it went. They do that all the time with scarabs, actually, within certain kinds of jewelry. Jordan coat, how scary is it? If you're talking about cabochons, they're not scary or anything like that. It's just gems cut in a different way. I love learning about geology and things of this nature. Bowser, Jesus Christ is king. No, I am, actually. Sorry to tell you. Turtle's Toy Box. The archaeologist that planted the ring a nose emoji. That would be fucking funny. Yeah, it would be funny. You imagine, I was thinking about this the other day. Can you imagine somebody, because people trolled thousands of years ago. If you look at the Pompeii graffiti and stuff like that, they had a sense of humor, believe it or not. Can you imagine that somebody like 2,000 years ago said, ha 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 ha, people, someday they're going to find my body. I'm going to put something in this fucking coffin that's going to make no sense and it's going to drive them crazy. I have a feeling that this has happened more than once. Our interest in archaeology will be, I guess, our downfall, because I have a feeling that multiple people have done this sort of thing over time. Bobby Bobbinson. Bobby, he's there. Bobby, me man. You get a pile in and stuff. CP Semple, no, I believe it was red rum that he said in The Shining. Not red rash, I believe it was red rum. Red rum. Bobby, why are you wearing the pirate hat? 'Cause I want to. Yeah, the red rum scene was quite funny. The funny part is the woman in that movie was cast as a Vermonter, but the movie didn't have a whole lot of relation to the book, and apparently Stephen King fucking flipped out when he saw the fucking movie. He's like, holy goddamn Jesus. And he never wanted to work with Kubrick again, actually, after that. Kubrick, he was an interesting character. He either did really, really good or really, really bad. Mostly really, really good. But Stephen King, yeah, he never wanted to work with him again. Red rum. Bobby, Sticks, if your cum was red all of a sudden, what would you do? Beat off again. Why not? Unless there's pain involved, I suppose. Yeah, who cares? Shit, I think I might have some... Oh, yeah. Randall Flag, Sticks, I'm on an MRE diet, and thank you for getting me started. Crates are $30 at Ocean State, Oscan State Job Lot, which is $2.50 for 1,250 calories. It's a good deal, by the way. My only issue is the heater doesn't work sometimes. Yeah, the problem is if they do get older, then, yeah, flameless ration heaters, or hexamine, by the way, they can stop working. Copium! Sticks, check your DMs. Breaking news! This is big. Okay. I think someone's in the bathroom at the moment. Happens all the time. Any tips for getting in the MRE heater to work properly? It seems fickle and doesn't always work and half warms the food. Sometimes I do not overfill with water and use salt. Advice, please. You literally just light up the hexamine tablets. If it's a flameless ration heater, I would recommend putting in less than the advised amount of water and squishing it around really good. And once it starts to generate heat, that's pretty much what you do. But you can always eat them cold anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. Green Text Pro, special red username on clankers.net, reserved for a special someone. Ooh! The amount of features we have on there will boggle the mind. It's full featured. Trust the plan. Random Flag. Sticks. A small manhunt is underway for a man in the Bronx, New York for documenting a ritual sacrifice of a house cat to Satan, apparently. Thought this was only a myth of the satanic panic of the 80s. Sounds like it's probably a fucking psychopath, but I'll look into it. I think you, Mr. Rant, could be wrong. Stepped away for a sec. Yeah, I missed several. I'm getting to them. And then BW Sticks, have you checked out FiveMind.com by Liberal Hive Mind, meme site for right-wingers, funny as fuck? No, I haven't seen it. Copium, never mind, lol. Let me look up the satanic cat worship. Bump to top, says Copium Poppies. I'll get to that just in a moment. Not really seeing anything. Doja Cat says devil worship rumors affect her almost every day. All right. Oh, yeah, I missed a rant. Could be wrong. Step away for a second. Let me try to grab it. Yeah, you told me there was breaking news. Oh, and Queen of Biltong is now a monthly supporter. My apologies for not getting to that. I'm trying to balance two chats at once. It can be difficult. CZO, favorite OG killers? I like Jason Voorhees and Fred Krueger. Jason's definitely at the top. I like Jason 5. Unpopular opinion. I like the really, really campy, retarded, middle-of-the-road Jason. So 4, 5, and 6, and 7. Those are the ones that most people like the least. I happen to like them the most. Just saying. Jason 5. One of my favorite horror movies. Copium, did you find the DM? Oh, yeah, on Twitter. Sorry, just a sec. Let me try to get to it. Oh, for the love of God. More fucking candy corn. Jeez. Copium Poppies continues to torment me by sending me pictures of candy corn. I have tried to survive. Eventually, I will die. Oh, Amp! Sleazy's doing a Halloween showing. That's right. I had told him I probably wouldn't be available because on Halloween I'm probably going out and, they're partying and shit like that. I would really like to get aboard though. I'll see what I can do because we still got a couple of days. Copium Poppy, Sloppy Joes with candy corn. You are insane. You're crazier than I am. That's going some. Randall Flag, link to cat sacrifice. The man is clearly unwell. Apologize for Reddit link. Okay, I'll copy that out. Yeah, I might have to talk about that tomorrow if somebody, I don't want to see that shit. I'm sorry, but animal abuse is a little bit beyond my pay grade. Especially with cats. Turtles Toy Box in part 2. Jason just has a pillowcase instead of the hockey mask. Lol. Yeah, Jason morphed throughout the years and then became a space traveler and fought Freddy Krueger and all sorts of weird shit. Bobby, Sticks, you should pleasure yourself with candy corn live on Halloween. How can I pleasure myself with candy corn? That will not work, my friend. Anyways, I'm going to let everyone go. I've already got part of the docket done for tomorrow. I'm probably just going to do mainly bants tomorrow, so it's all good. We'll have some bants, some rants, some news, and some slews. Yeah, baby! Anyways, I will be back tomorrow. I will get the rest of the docket done. I've also got some literary work to do, so it might take a little bit of time. That's about all. Peace out.